This is a call to order of the Personnel, Pension, and Insurance Committee special meeting on Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Mr. Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
All right. Are there any public comments relative to agenda items? Once again, public comments relative to agenda items. There being none, we move to item 3. Are there any comments or questions from the consumer advocate relative to agenda items? Moving to item 4, approval of meeting minutes of June 30th, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Okay.
Second.
Any comments, amendments, deletions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Item 5, report from DeHaab Associates on pension plan performance and the OPEB trust performance. David Lee, I believe, is online. Is that correct?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate you letting me dial in. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there because of a conflict. But as we sit here on September the third quarter, I know that we are looking at second quarter books. Do you all have that in front of you right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I won't spend too much time on the economy because it is so far in the rearview mirror, but if you flip to page 4 for me, I just wanted to highlight for you what we can garner from this, at least our trends. So just to mention in the upper left-hand corner of the page there, as I highlight usually, the GDP, I think, is the one that really pops out at everybody. From the prior quarter to the current quarter, it did flip from a negative 0.5%. I'm sorry, I'm just giving a second. It looks like somebody's trying to call that up. Page 5 on PDF, page 4 actual numbers. Thank you. So upper left-hand corner of the page, just to highlight for you that the numbers did bounce from a negative number of negative 0.5 to a positive 3%. After this, it did actually tick up from this to more like a 3.3 to 3.5-ish type of number. What we can take away from this, that the economy overall is still growing at a modest pace. Obviously, as I mentioned to you, the prior quarter being negative was a reflection on greater imports being pulled in prior to the tariffs that were supposed to go into effect in early April. And again, as I mentioned, having more imports relative to exports is actually a drag on GDP, which is why we had that flip in the first to second quarter. Unemployment is still trending in a similar fashion, although it did tick up a little bit. We're still kind of in the low 4.1 to 4.3 type of range. So that is good, although there are some hints that perhaps unemployment is rearing its head a little bit. And then CPI, which is a reflection of inflation, is still below 3%, kind of right now in that same trend line. I think the biggest news that you all were aware of is that last week the Fed finally this year did change their stance and decrease short-term interest rates by 25 basis points or 0.25%. Again, not moving the needle dramatically, but they did highlight there was some concern with unemployment and that perhaps it does require a little bit of stimulus in a more methodical and programmatic fashion. So they did put 25 basis points reduction in September. It looks like they probably will do that either once or twice again this year at the upcoming meetings. The markets have already priced in 5 to 6 cuts, meaning that they envision another 3 next year. We shall see. At the end of the day, though, it was probably the most well-telegraphed 25 basis point cut that the Fed was going to do. I think the biggest takeaway that we saw from the second quarter was that it truly was a very good stock market. That second column on the right side of the page just highlights for you that stocks were up dramatically. Usually I highlight for you the S&P 500, second row from the top, which are large cap domestic stocks. And that for the quarter was up 10.9%, bringing the 12-month return up to 15.2%. Very good. In fact, didn't really matter whether you invested in large, mid, small cap stocks. All of them were up, or at least 8.5%. And in fact, stocks outside the US, as represented by the MSCI EAFE, were up even more at 12.1, and emerging markets up 12.2. And it was a good time all around, as even bonds got into it as well. Bonds, as represented by the US aggregate, was up 1.2%, bringing their 12-month return up to 6.1%. The trend that we saw for stocks, though, in terms of style, was still consistent. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the page, it was still a growth-oriented story. If you'll see growth, that column was better than the core column, was better than the value column, which is the trend that we've been seeing for the past really a couple of years now. Primarily large cap technology companies have been driving the stock market up. And same thing today. I don't know if you all had the opportunity to see, the markets actually were off a little bit. In the morning, NVIDIA decided to make an investment. All of a sudden, it was off to the races again. And technology stocks, primarily the large cap technology stocks, drove the markets up again. So it just is one of those stock markets where it feels a little bit frothy, but you can't get in front of it because it continues to rise up. If I could ask you to flip to page 7 or page 8 on the PDF. You know what? I apologize. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong pagination here. The performance summary page, if you could go down the slide, and one more. Perfect. Thank you. And this, as you know, is the snapshot of the portfolio over different trailing periods. The short message is that it was a continuation of very good performance for the pension fund. You'll see in the middle of the page that the fund was up 8.5% for the quarter, which exceeded both the shadow index and policy index and ranked in the 3rd percentile. I remind you usually that the shadow index is if we had all of our money in index funds using the actual allocation of the portfolio, that's what the plan would have gained, the 7.4%. And the policy index is if our asset allocation had mirrored what we have in the policy, we would have gained 6.7. So for the quarter, we had outperformance because of our active allocation, and we do have a little bit more in stocks relative to our policy, and that's why we outperformed both the shadow and the policy. In fact, if you look over the longer term, 1, 3, 5, and past 10 years, all of those are top quartile, if not top decile performance, and gross of fees are all in excess, and net of fees, almost all of them are above that as well. For the quarter, though, if you go down that column, you'll notice that obviously large and mid cap, we have index funds, which is why those numbers mirror the benchmarks. Small cap is our first active allocation that we see in this chart. They outperformed by 0.3, which put it in the top third of the universe, but they did quite well historically, as you'll see. They are a consistent outperformer for us, and over the past 5 years and past decade, they've outperformed by a fair margin, 4% 5 years, and you'll see that for the past decade, almost the similar differential. For international, that's also an active component. International did quite well for the quarter at 17.2 versus 12.1. You may recall that we did terminate one of our international managers and then migrated those assets over to our lone active manager, which is Hardman Johnston. And that was about a year and a half ago. So that 1 year number truly does show the capture of Hardman doing quite well, and they had a nice bounce back. Longer term numbers, it's a blended performance of those two managers, which is why it's a little bit more in line with the benchmark. Real estate is our active component that should hopefully do better than fixed income, although now you'll see that because of the 3-year negative number, it's more in line with fixed income. And timber has been a very consistent outperformer for us, coming in at mid to high single-digit returns, which is done nicely. And of course, fixed income, we have that blend of a active component with a GIC component. So on that blended basis, it's done nicely. Asset allocation in the upper right-hand corner of the page, if you draw a line under international equity and add up the large cap, mid cap, small cap, and international combined, that comes out to roughly about 72%. So at a high level, about 70% equity, 30% non-equity. So a little bit over target on our equity components, although it is spread throughout the pieces. The greatest over allocation that we have is on international, and that's just because it's kind of grown to that level, but still within guidelines on all of the components. On the right-hand corner of the page just indicates that the portfolio grew nicely from $268 million to $286 million, and that's even though we've taken out about $5 million and change. The portfolio grew primarily because of nice appreciation. If you can move forward a couple of slides for me, please, to 12 on the PDF or 11. Perfect. And this is a pictorial depiction of the corpus of the fund. And you'll see that over the past 2 decades, the portfolio has more than doubled in size, even though we've taken out more than what we began with in terms of market value. And in fact, at least as of this snapshot, this $286 million represented a new all-time high at the end of a quarter. And as you know, we do produce some updated values, which are preliminary, but the preliminary value on the portfolio is closer to $298 million. So this, again, is an equity market that continues to gain significantly. And fortunately, we have participated with it so that we've had some nice appreciation. Next page, please. So this is a decomposition of what we saw a moment ago in the performance summary. It really just puts names to the index fund allocations of the Fidelity 500 and Rumline for the S&P 400 or mid-cap allocations. Wellington is our lone small cap manager that has done nicely, as shown by the ranks. All of those are in top third, if not top quartile. And then Hardman Johnston, who is our lone international manager now. And more often than not, they tend to be a top decile type of manager. Although, again, it is a more conviction-weighted manager, so that there are times that they will underperform a little bit, which is why we see that 5-year number there that they did underperform a bit. However, again, over history, they tend to do better. And then we have several bites at the apple with real estate. That combined basis that we saw a moment ago on the performance summary page is a combination of Intercontinental, which is our core plus manager that's diversified. Madison 3, Madison 5 are more debt oriented for the most part. And for their pieces, they've done what they're supposed to be doing. FIA is the timber manager. And then Goodwin and Aetna are our 2 fixed income allocations. The last page I'll take you to is it's a little bit back actually, page 8 on the PDF. And this is just so, I'm sorry, page 8 on the PDF or page 9 on the PDF. My apologies. Yes, thank you. So this is the asset allocation. As I mentioned to you, so that we can reflect on the minutes. The target is the column to the right. The percentage is the actual number that we had at the end of the quarter. The place that we are over allocated are each of the equity components. The most over allocated that we have is in our international with Hardman Johnston, and it just kind of grew into that. Just for reference, whenever we do need cash, what we do is we take money away from our equity components and then port them over primarily to Aetna Cash to help fund our obligations. But overall, it was a very good quarter for the pension fund, and it continues to be a very good quarter for the third quarter as well. So let me pause there, see if there are any questions with the pension fund before I move to the OPEB fund.
Are there any questions for David? We can move to the OPEB, David. There are none.
Great, thank you. So for the OPEB book, if we could turn to page 8 on the PDF, I think, or page 7 on the actual documentation. Yes, page 8, let's try. Perfect, thank you. So similar good results here, not as impressive because our allocation is slightly more conservative here. But again, we have all of this portfolio in a straightforward, index-oriented, diversified portfolio, and it did what it's supposed to do. So for the quarter, we gained 6.2% in line with our benchmark, as you would expect, because all of these components are actually indexed, bringing our year return to 10.7%, our 3-year to 11%, and since March of 21, 6.5%. Both this as well as a pension plan has a bogey of 6 5/8 or 6.625. So we've done a pretty good job of hitting that target. The 5-year number, the inception number is slightly below, but as you may recall, we really started this plan with just a very modest amount of money. And as we started adding a little bit more, we did start diversifying the portfolio to capture more equity returns. So if you look at the asset allocation in the upper right-hand corner, as I mentioned to you in the past, really asset allocation is what drives the vast majority, approximately 90% of the variability of returns for any of these funds. And here, if you add up the components, large, mid, small, international, we're at about 62% versus 38% non-equity. So close to a 60-40% type of allocation. As you can see, we do keep a fair amount of our assets in cash because this fund does have some potential cash withdrawal needs. So there's been some thought about leaving some of that in cash. And if you look at the middle of the page, performance, for the quarter column, all those numbers are in line. And in fact, if you look at all those numbers across each of the rows, for the most part, those numbers, once we put them into the index funds, they will match up directly. The reason why there is a little bit of difference between the portfolio versus the shadow index, that the shadow index actually has just more large cap exposure. So that's kind of the apples to orange comparison there. Bottom right-hand corner of the page, to that point of I'm mentioning that they have more of a cash need here, you'll notice that we started the portfolio off at just shy of $20 million, had withdrawals about $2.5 million. So even though we've made $1 million, we wound up at 18.4 at the end of the quarter. If I could ask you to flip 2 slides and then we'll come back to the asset allocation. So this chart does show you that we have more of a sawtooth type of movement here because as there are contributions that are made, the money's come in, and then of course there are withdrawals. Similarly, contribution and withdrawal. So that's the cadence of this portfolio. 1 slide back, please. So asset allocation, just to highlight here that, again, we do have a little bit excess in cash, although our equities are pretty on target. Large cap mid cap and small cap, all slightly below, and then fixed income is also below, but that is balanced by having a lot more cash. And then page 10 will probably be the last slide I'll discuss. So page 11 on the PDF. And this just highlights for you that, as I mentioned, all of the components are indexed. So we use Fidelity for our large cap, mid cap, and small cap domestic, as well as our international exposure. And then we use Vanguard for the bond exposure. I think what jumps out at me when I look at something like this, you look at the first column there, it truly was a very good international quarter, up 12%, outperforming each of the market segments domestically. And in fact, if you look at the trailing year now, international has done very nicely, up 18.4. Domestic and mid cap, not too shabby, as they're both at 15.2. So it's been a very good equity market. Let me stop there, see if there are any questions I might address.
Yeah, the withdrawal of $2.5 million, is that typical? Or is that high for a time frame?
But for the OPEB?
Yeah.
The OPEB, that's just based on basically what expenses we have
I
to meet.
understand that. Is that high or is that typical? Did we just, I don't remember what it was last time we did this. Is $2.5 million withdrawal typical? Is that a high
I
number?
couldn't tell you.
Oh, that's what
No, it's usually, yeah.
David?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second.
Well, the question was the withdrawals from the OPEB. The $2.5 million, is that typical, average, or, how?
It's a varying cadence, actually. So it depends. I mean, last quarter, actually, more money came in than went out. But if money wouldn't come in, we would probably see about a $2 million withdrawal.
I mean, the withdrawals basically are going to be contingent upon what expenses or illnesses we'd have to cover. Is that correct or not? For the
I'm probably
OPEB.
speaking out of turn on that because I'm not privy to that. The way that it's been explained to me is that I know that the MDC does have some cash also on the sidelines, and the net amounts do come out from the OPEB.
Okay. Any other questions for David?
No, I'm good. I guess I'm just not totally understanding. So if you do this every quarter for maybe 2 years, we'll have no money in the account. Is that how that works? Or at some point we have to contribute more? I mean, this was a good return. We have investment-wise, we had a great return, but we're still lost. We're $1.5 million short than we were at the
If I
beginning.
remember, sure.
Yeah, so we're.
Yeah, so there's two components to OPEB. So the board voted in 2019, I think, to develop a trust fund for OPEB. We never had that before. So we pay go, right? So we budget X amount of dollars. Last year, I want to guess it was 10 and change, whatever that number was. And that's actual pay go. So we're trying to catch up. So we're we're budgeting roughly $10 million to spend on medical expenses. Plus, in addition to that, we add funds to the OPEB trust. And the goal is to not take from OPEB trust, to leave it and let it grow. But as David mentioned, sometimes we need to take
That's
money.
kind of my basic question, was this minus 2.5 typical? But he says it's
Dave said, I don't know what the numbers were, but
a little
about
higher.
$2 million, yeah.
So, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just have
So
to-
there's not a consistent cadence to it. It is episodic. So they don't take $2 million every single quarter, which is why I can't give you a
Okay, I'm just
consistent
curious.
answer with that. Sure.
Thank you.
Are there
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for David? Thank you, David.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
We move on to item 6, consideration and potential action with regard to approval of insurance coverage and limits.
I'll move over here. I just have a hard copy for everyone.
Thank you. I'm good.
Oh. So it's nice to see everyone. It's insurance time again.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to introduce this is Ronnie from Gallagher as well as Marnie from Gallagher. So before I switch everything over, I just wanted to do a brief introduction on that. Okay,
Thank
the
you.
floor is yours.
So it's nice to see everyone. I guess the good news is we don't have nearly as many numbers as the last presentation, so a little easier to follow, I guess. And, oh, okay, there it is. Huh? Yep. So basically what we want to do today is kind of go over, well, not kind of, we're definitely going to go over the renewal results to date. So get that up on the board, which is slide 3.
Go to slideshow at the top. Hit play from beginning. I don't know.
So 7% change, huh? So it's a big
I guess just close the right tab and just go through it. What page did you want to start on?
3. There you go. I'm glad I handed the hard copies out, hard to see. I just wanted to start and just by saying insurance renewals are fairly, they're a heavy lift. And for the MDC team, gathering all the information, carriers want updated exposure information, updated valuations. And the MDC team, Diana, Neff, and Jonathan, we had the information fairly early in the process. And the more comfortable you can make an underwriter, the better the results. So that was, they did a great job on that. Looking at the results to date, we're still working on this. We're referring to this as a worst-case scenario. But we're not going to be slashing prices. We might get a little bit here, a little bit there. The bottom line from last year is a 7% increase in premium overall. That's a mixture of rate and increase in exposure. So going through, I just want to kind of highlight where the issues were. Your workers' comp,
Yeah, when you say an increase in rate and an increase in exposure, what do you mean with regard to increase in exposure? Does that mean that
So
we
for
take on
instance,
that risk or
yeah,
what?
so for instance, your property values went up 3% or 2.9%. So that makes your premium go up a little bit too,
Yep.
right? So it's end rate as well. So the workers' comp program, that was not an issue this year. We had a 2-year deal last year, or 3-year.
2-year.
2-year. Okay, so that was all set. The property actually was quite a good renewal. The premium went down 2.3%. over the last couple of years, the property market has softened a little bit. A few years ago, it was pretty tough. So that was a good result. Everyone likes to see their premiums going down. I guess the star of the show, or the villain of the show, however you want to look at it, is the general liability. You can see that number sticks out. The premium went from 290,000 to 350. It's a 21% increase. Travelers had originally told us, gave us an indication of about a 12% increase in rate. There was a little increase in exposure as well. But there are two claims that are driving that, that Travelers believes they will be paying out in the near future. One of them was a property damage claim, and they have it reserved for right over $400,000. There's another claim they have reserved for a little over $200,000. Travelers thinks they're going to pay out on that. We don't really think they are going to pay out on it. We recently submitted some information to them showing that the contractor who is involved, their insurance company is taking over the defense for MDC. So they should be looking at it in a different light. And we're hoping they'll make some concession in the pricing because of that. The next one, the auto, a fairly good driver of your program. That went up 10.6%, which is very standard in the market. Auto losses are not decreasing anywhere with, I guess, people with hands-off driving there. The next couple lines, the crime, flat. That was great. Small dollar. Another one is the fiduciary, also small dollar. That was a 3.4% increase, but $704. The public officials, this was a flat renewal. And I think, in my personal opinion, that's a fantastic renewal. There was a situation reported, an incident reported, which could involve AIG. They were new on the program last year, but were on it years before. So a claim came in from years ago that they were on, but they were aware of it and not too concerned about it, and they came in with a flat renewal. Cyber, small increase, 3.5%. Once again, not a cost driver in your program, which tells us the IT team has great protocol in place. So that was good. Excess professional, once again, police professional, very small dollars. Where we have some increase, another significant increase, is in the umbrella and in the excess layers above that. Bottom line is it's, $682,000. That's a big spend. The Travelers program, they offer $5 million in the primary limit for $86,810. That's about $17,000 per mil. And we do not share this with Travelers, but that is extremely competitive. I mean, I think you'd be looking at closer to $30,000 per mil for most carriers on that line. The rest of the program went up about 10%, with the exception of one layer that was flat. The 10% is in line with what the market is looking for. So there we get to the bottom line, $2,166,000. Well, that's actually including an additional policy for drone liability, but $2,165,000, which is a 7% increase over the expiring.
What was the increase last year? Just, do we have any comparison there? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I think it was 5% or close to 5%. We can get that for you.
That's all right. I was just asking,
Yeah.
trying to give people some
Yeah.
base numbers. Are there any questions?
with our, through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
With our cyber liability, if there's, say there's a cyber incident and there's a ransomware situation that the MDC decides it needs to pay $3 million to the hackers or whomever.
Yep.
Is that covered? The additional $2 million over the $1 million limit is covered by our umbrella?
No, so the umbrella just sits over the GL and the auto and the employer's liability grant and workers' compensation. The cyber stands alone, it has its own limit, and the limit is
1 million.
1 million.
1 million.
1 million per incident.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if there's ever interest in higher limits, we can certainly provide that for you. A few years ago, they weren't available, but now they are.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? What do we need to do here? Do we need to approve this?
Yep, yeah, there's a drafted resolution for approval of the coverage and limits up to the amounts listed in the table.
Has everyone looked at the insurance coverage proposal that we have to take action on? I'm looking for a motion.
Chris Stone just raised his hand.
Oh, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Chris Stone, District Council. Just as we did last year, this body passed a resolution that set the outer limits for coverages, and then in terms of the type of coverage, the extent of coverage, and the premiums to be paid. This year, we're asking you to do the same thing with the understanding that Ronnie and her team are continue to work on lower premiums, and will certainly report back to this body once their work is completed. Hopefully there'll be good news, but it won't be any worse than what you see, but we'll report back in short order after we get the final numbers from Ronnie and her team.
I mean, in effect, we're just approving the outer limits.
Correct.
And basically, you guys are going to
Premiums, yep.
continue to work and see if you can cut better deals or get better prices.
Yeah, the premiums will not exceed what's on this spreadsheet.
And the
Hopefully,
problem is,
reduction.
yeah, the issue for us, Mr. Chairman, is that we have to get these in place. I think October 1, Ronnie, is the
Yep.
date. So when I say we'll come back to PPI, it's to report. We won't be asking you for any additional resolution to approve those revised numbers, because they'll be within the limits you're setting forth today.
May I have a motion? Unless there are any other questions.
Just to, I'll make a motion, but I want to make sure I know what I'm saying here. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the payments that they will be the maximum that we'll pay.
Well,
There's a,
That's good enough. Is that
there,
what-
here, there is a, right here, if you look on the back of your
I'm
packet.
seeing that, I'll see. You want the further resolve? Where's it say the motion? Doesn't say a motion.
the resolved. If
It's
you can make
resolved,
a
okay.
motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Do I have a s-
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll work hard for you.
Thank you, Ronnie. Moving to item 7, discussion of potential action with regard to the management study. Someone going to talk to that? Item 7?
We don't have anything prepared. John, you want to go through the history here?
So John Myrtle, at the PPI meeting, I believe at the end of June, we provided the attached draft RFP for a consultant to develop a scope of services for an RFP for a management study. During the meeting, there was discussion and the committee wanted to have further time to review and submit any comments. I emailed all the members of PPI for comments, and I haven't received any. So it's back before you today.
Okay. I have no comments, so we can act on it. This essentially is what we're going to put out in the market. Is that correct?
If
Yeah.
if the committee so chooses.
Yeah.
And then the board, PPI would recommend to the board.
Recommend to the board.
Right.
I mean, that's basically it. Do we continue to have a quorum?
1, 2, 3. I have commissioners, Lester, Desai, Gentile, Curry, and Magnan are online, and Salemi.
Okay, are there any comments for those of you that are attending remotely with regard to the proposal as written? No comments were received. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Curry. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I can't. I'm far away and I can't figure out how to get my hand up, so I apologize. Are we on the management study?
yes, we are.
All right. I just have one question through you.
Sure.
Why are we not doing what we did similar to the climate study and do the work ourselves to find someone that's appropriate and go through that process rather than hiring somebody to do it?
I think that's what we had discussed. And what are you proposing, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Curry?
I'm really not proposing. I'm just wondering why we have to deal with the management study any different than we did with a climate study, and create an RFI, RFP, whichever we want to call it, and just to follow the same process to then seek and find someone that can do the work that we want at a reasonable price.
Well, if I remember correctly, there was some debate as to how we were going to put this together and structure and formulate it, and that there was going to be the hiring of, through this instrument, the person to help to shape that instrument, yes?
Not to interrupt, but if I recall, this was a lot of work. I think it wasn't, you guys discussed, to do this, to put out a request,
Yeah.
is a lot of work for the NDC, and we thought it made sense to go outside. Again, not to say we're gonna do anything, but we thought we'd go outside. It's just way more work.
Did you hear that, Mr. Curry?
Lost it.
Yeah, we lost him.
Commissioner Curry, can you hear us?
Yes.
I mean, if someone is now telling us that it isn't going to be that much work and that we can generate this internally through our normal staff work. Yeah,
Well, it seems with the deafening silence that we have here going on with this, it might be worthwhile for us to put this maybe on hold another month or so. But the question I have is, I was reading the information. Scott, through you, Mr. Chairman, Scott, how many organizations, not organizations, but state agency, people, towns and so forth, because you have a lot of information that would fit into this study that goes out to a lot of different people for their review. And I was curious of how many, and have you gotten any feedback from the outside?
If I may, Mr. Chair, through you. So a couple of things. So we do a annual report to OLR. We send it to OLR, right? OLR. And that's basically, we were removed, all of municipal water utilities. We used to have to submit a report to PURA, and I forgot the date, but decoupling, there was a decoupling bill passed for the private water utilities. And as part of that decoupling bill, we were actually, all of us municipal, are not required to submit our PURA report. But in turn, and replaced because of the 2013 issue in Glastonbury with the customer service charge, we now have to submit a very comprehensive report to OLR, which includes a lot of stuff, not just water, it includes affirmative action, all those good things, budget and all those good things. We also, as you know, we submit our reports to DEEP and to DPH, to all of our towns, legislators, as it results from our annual monthly reports. So we submit a lot of that stuff. The CHRO, we just talked about this at the last meeting, our affirmative action plan we submit. I would just say this is that, in this discussion, we have, and I apologize for this, but we are behind in terms of getting our a self-assessment plan going. We've engaged our consultant, but we're not on schedule as I had promised. And so we're working on getting that self-assessment done, which is part of the strategic plan. The self-assessment is a real, actual technical assessment of each department and what we do, how we do it. And that is going to be really the catalyst to decide what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, what do we need to improve. And the board approved us to spend $60,000 with a consultant to do that work. And then that will be the starting point to actually form the strategic plan in terms of what does the board want us to do. And I'll use an example of, should we be using more internal staff? This has been a big issue. I know Commissioner Payne raised it a couple of years ago. Should we be using more staff to do more in-house work, water mains and sewer? And that's a strategic decision, but the self-assessment will help decide and give us the technical data to do that. My recommendation is you've got to do the self-assessment, you've got to do the strategic plan before you can do a management study, because the management study is something that's a broader review of analyzing all this data that we don't have yet. So if I'm not mistaken, what was approved by PPI was we were authorized to hire a consultant to help us draft an RFP, so it's like a two-step process, right? We're hiring a consultant to help us draft a draft of a RFP for a management study. I would recommend that we let the self-assessment go forward. We implement the self-assessment, utilize the strategic plan to develop what the board wants to do with all that information. And then you can decide, I think Commissioner Gardeau even brought this up, when you do the self-assessment and you do the strategic plan, that'll help you decide on how and what you want to do with the management study.
Would you also think that the environmental study that we did would be a part of that also? And that's, you're still working on that part of it to get everybody up to speed where they need to based on that environmental plan.
Absolutely. As you know, we've talked about this a number of times. The amount of man hours, woman hours that we put into that management study will be the starting point for a consultant to sit down and look at the self-assessment, to look at the strategic plan, and then help the MDs. The one thing staff needs is the strategic plan is important because we need to know direction. We need to understand prioritization, right? So if we have multiple prioritizations of things that we're trying to do, but each committee is making decisions as a committee, the strategic plan is going to give us direction on what they want us to do. What is our priority for the district in the next 3-5 years? And so yes, we'll definitely use that document as a foundation of the starting point for that.
Thank you.
Commissioners Gentile and Salemi have their hands raised.
Commissioner Salemi?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I hope you can hear me. We heard from John Myrtle and asked about calling this item number 7, and my understanding was that this is from June. It's on the table, and we were waiting any comments. There weren't any comments sent in, and you asked, Mr. Chair, you asked tonight if there were any comments, and there weren't any comments. So I think we should move forward with what we had. Every time this management study comes up, there's some new, glitch or something where, we take a step backwards and don't keep moving forward. So I'm just going to, we didn't produce a resolution, but I believe that and maybe John Myrtle can read it again, but I believe what he said was that we have this that was done in June, and we were just waiting for our comments. There aren't any comments, so what's the appropriate motion? I'll be happy to make it.
Secretary?
This is John Myrtle. You're correct. There isn't a drafted resolution, so it's up to the committee or any member to make a motion for a resolution as they see fit.
Okay, well, John, so I just asked, what's the appropriate language for a resolution to move it forward? I have to come up with that, or you can, you can start.
To move forward issuing the RFP, recommendation would be for PPI to recommend to the district board to direct staff to issue this draft RFP.
Okay, thank you. And so that would be and listen, if somebody doesn't like that idea, they certainly don't have to vote for it, but that's my motion. Mr. Chair?
Yes? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion?
There's somebody up with their hand up.
Yeah, Commissioner Gentile had her hand up.
Commissioner Gentile?
I just wanted to echo Scott's thoughts. I think we have a lot of the same resources being called upon to do competing priorities. And my personal preference would be to complete the self-assessment and the strategic plan before turning the attention of the entire powers that be, both on the board and working for the district, to prematurely kick off this exercise.
Chairman Curry raised his hand.
Chairman Curry?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes?
All right. Is there any opportunity to do both? And what I mean is accept the motion as made, but put that in place in a what some will consider a logical sequence as to what Scott has suggested and Chris has suggested and Joan has suggested.
We could, but we currently have a motion before the House.
If you would accept that as an amendment to the main motion, I would make it.
I have no objection to that.
And so made.
Second.
Well, this is John Myrtle, just so I'm clear, I'm not clear what the amendment is.
The amendment is that go forward with the process for looking for a consultant to help us. But that step, once it's determined, would not take place until the strategic plan is completed and follow in a more logical sequence with the information gathered.
Can I,
So, okay,
I'll be honest, I'm lost now a little bit. We spent a lot of time, I'm not necessarily for this management study now, I'm just saying, we spent a lot of time, you did, putting together an RFP for the management study. It's all for the person to write an RFP for the management study, not that big of a deal. So we put a lot of time to it. All we're asking to vote on is to go out and finish the RFP. All this other stuff can be discussed later, really has nothing to do with this. This is a small little package.
All right.
So
Through
I'm
you,
not
Mr.
sure why we
Chair.
want to mess it up.
Fair enough, as long as the next step would be consideration as to when we take that information and how we apply that information as in terms of hiring a consultant. I'm okay with that. And I would withdraw my amendment.
I'll withdraw my second.
You don't have to withdraw a second to withdraw an amendment.
So we have the current. Oh, wait, someone's raising their hand. Who is that?
Commissioner Salemi.
Salemi?
yes, I just, there's a discussion here. I don't want to change my motion or any of the wording or anything. But the issue for me in trying to do some of what Chairman Curry said is that there's never a date certain. We never know when this is going to happen. It's going to, it's just out in the future somewhere. So that's why I'd rather see my motion stay the way it is. And we've been working on this for a long time. And I'd like to see it go forward at this point. So you have my motion and there's a second. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there's any further discussion, I think we have to call for a
Maybe
vote.
just one more question.
Sure.
Do you have a list of companies that are interested in actually doing this? We haven't got that.
No.
No, that's not been distributed. I mean, it's not been, there's been no solicitation, is that correct? Correct. Yeah, okay. For the current motion that is before the committee, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
There are 2 votes. Passes. Item 8, discussion of the acquisition of CDLs. My question, because this is basically a request upon my part.
I gave my iPad.
Can someone describe for me or explain to me what our current policy is with regard to the commercial driver's licenses? It's my understanding that once a new hire is made, either that person has a CDL or is required within a certain period of time to acquire one. Is that correct?
No. We have, through Chair Scott Jellison, CEO, our job descriptions presently require you to have a CDL or not have a CDL. And if you're required to have a CDL, you have to come into the MDC with a CDL. We made that change back in 2015 with a multitasking job description. So presently, we don't have a position presently in the MDC that is the old pipe joiner position, which is someone who is going to need a CDL, but presently doesn't have one. So we presently don't have a position like that.
Okay, so that means essentially that someone is going to have to acquire a CDL, and I take it that that requires the incurring of some expense, is that correct?
That is,
And it's my understanding that the cost of acquiring a CDL ranges from anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000.
well, CDL-B, which is mainly what our employees need with air brakes, is in that range of $5,000. We actually have allowed to utilize that educational pot of money that HR carries every year to utilize it for someone who wants to get a CDL. If you have a Class A license, which is more tractor-trailer type driving, we do have a number of people with those, but we don't need that as part of our job description. So that could cost up to $15,000. So there's an opportunity for employees to utilize the educational funding to get that. And that's something new that we added the last 2 years, year and a half ago. So we added that to the opportunities for existing employees to get their CDL.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, in the past, didn't we do the CDL training internally?
We did, but the federal government changed those rules. We now have to go through the clearinghouse, which is dictated by US DOT, and everyone they have to acquire a CDL license from a licensed professional organization. We used to be able to train them internally. Then they would go and take their test, but that's not allowed anymore.
Okay.
Has to be a professional CDL licensed.
Commissioner Salemi? Commissioner Salemi? Oops.
Sorry, I was mute there. I apologize there. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, we did do that. We did train, have our own people train our employees. I don't know if is that previous to 2015 or at some time in the past, not too distant past. But Scott, you did mention that we have educational funding available for our employees, but you also said that we don't hire anybody unless they already have the CDL. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. So we do hire people into positions that don't require a CDL, and but then we have educational funding available for them to get a CDL. Is my understanding that correctly?
Yes, that is correct, because we do have some jobs like FM1, which is a facility maintaining job, and they do not require a CDL, but this FM2 does require a CDL. So they have an opportunity to get their CDL with MDC paying for it. They do it on their own time, just like they did in the past. When people were trained on site for MDC CDLs, they went down to the yard at 4 o'clock after hours on their own time, and the supervisors would train people. We're just not allowed to do that anymore by federal standards. So we did, as you mentioned, we did offer the opportunity for employees to utilize typically that educational fund was dedicated towards college credit type programs. We have expanded it to include the CDLs. And so that's a huge win for our employees. So if someone wants to get their CDL, they can do that.
But you did say that that there are jobs that we advertise jobs to the outside. I assume you're talking about where you require a CDL. So they'd already have to already have one in order to apply for the job. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we have other jobs. We have other jobs that do not require a CDL, like the FM1, Facility Maintainer 1, does not require a CDL. But the FM2, the succession job for that class, does require a CDL. So if someone wants to promote themselves and be able to apply for the FM2 position, they need to get their CDL.
And for that position, what's the procedure? Essentially, they are paid, they're reimbursed after they've completed the course and passed the exams, or what?
Correct.
Okay. So essentially, they have to,
We have paid upfront for people who need us to pay upfront, whether it's college credits or whether it's CDLs. The payment's not the issue, it's the drive that, you know, the employee wants to get that CDL. And so there's an opportunity here for all of our employees, especially our, you know, our skilled craft worker 184 level, that if they want to get a CDL, there's an opportunity for them to get it.
Mr. Salemi?
I don't have anything further, Mr. Chair. I think that, you know, there's possibly a way to make it easier. But I think that would be the subject of, you know, contract negotiations and that'd be up to, you know, our management team and collective bargaining team. So thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Any more questions or concerns here? Move to item 9.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jamie Harlow from Human Resources. The monthly reports of the employment actions for both July and August has been provided. Not sure if you have any specific questions or if you'd like me to go through something specific. But they have been provided for the month of July as well as the month of August.
Do we have any positions where people come in and there's a kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better term or phrase, there's a kind of a probationary period, and if they survive that, they then move to a permanent status? If not, do we characterize that as a termination? How do we treat that for
So we don't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
So we don't really consider it permanent status, but essentially everyone that is hired at the district and or promoted is subject to a 90-day and it's 90 working day probationary period in that role. Once they're out of that role, they are essentially considered a regular employee and then would be subject to progressive discipline and things like that that are more procedural than you know, if something happened during a probationary period and the employee was not working out, we don't have to go through those progressive disciplinary steps if they're not performing at the level that we expect.
Is that reported in these numbers at all or not?
Yes, so that would be recorded if for some reason we dismissed an employee in that probationary period, it would be in the termination column.
Okay. Mr. Commissioner Salemi? You're on mute. Or he can't hear me in any event. Oh. He's muted though. Oh.
I'm sorry. I got to remember to hit that mute button there. So, yeah, quick question under the retirements, resignations, and terminations. So, I assume that for a retirement, there's no need for any kind of exit interview, but with a resignation, which would mean that the employee voluntarily decided that he wanted to leave the MDC. Do we provide, you know, exit interviews? And, you know, it would seem that the information that we might get might be important if someone were to leave, you know, the significant benefits of the MDC behind. Do we do, you know, exit interviews?
We do offer exit interviews for anyone that departs, again, not a retirement, but if someone resigns, we do offer a exit interview, and if they so choose to participate in that process, we do participate. We do go through that process with them because we are looking for the feedback if there are common themes, and we do assess that information and provide feedback to supervision if there's anything that's trending.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'm sorry, you can proceed.
Thank you.
Item 10, opportunity for general public comments. Once again, item 10, opportunity for general public comments. Item 11, commissioner requests for consideration of future agenda items. Commissioner requests for future agenda items. There being none, I will entertain the appropriate motion. Adjourned.